Good morning. I am the Renee, and this is the Renee Healing. So today I kind of wanted to tell a story. Um, as you probably know, this for me is a healing channel. I believe that we can be healed via conversation, and something that's just really that's been hitting me is that a lot of us have stories on the inside of us that can really help other people in ways that we may not know or we may not understand. So, um, the blows, the hard times, the things that we experience in life, these are the things that shape us. And um, these things happen to us from early, unfortunately. And if you're able to kind of take a look at what you've experienced and how it has shaped you over the years, how it's made you into the person that you are. Um, it may help to bring a revelation to have a better understanding of just you in general, help you in some way. So, one of the biggest blows to me was well, let's start here. Uh, I used to have two little brothers that has since passed away, and my first little brother that passed away, he passed away when I was 6 years old, and he was 4 years older than I was. No, 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 just kidding. We were 20 months apart. And so he passed away when he was 4 and I was 6. And he had Pierre Robin syndrome. He couldn't walk or talk. He had ailments, but there was a specific connection that him and I shared. And when he passed away, when I was 6 years old, that was an extreme blow. Um, I was sitting right next to him when he passed away. I remember him I remember seeing him as what I believe to be him taking his last breath. Um, and of course, the way that life is, you at the time, it's not, for your own heart's sake and sanity, you may not have known and understand these things, but as I replay it in my mind, I my mom and I, he wasn't feeling good and we took him to the doctor, like an urgent care. And when we took him to this urgent care and the doctor was talking to my mom, my mom was holding him, I saw him look, and it was kind of like like one of those kind of looks. And after he did that, he just slowly closed his eyes. And so the doctor was telling my mom, listen, get him to the emergency room. We can't do anything here. So, of course, we put him in the car and we take him to the emergency room. Of course, we get there. They're like, he didn't make it. But kind of just as what I just explained, I knew that I had a feeling that that was his last breath, his last, And for me, as a 6 year old, kind of seeing and experiencing that, and kind of like one of the closest people to you, um, kind of being taken away in that way, I became numb. It was hard for me to explain how I felt. Uh, I've always felt like I was a healer. And that was one of the moments that I felt like if only I had a chance to touch him, or if only I had a chance to, do something that maybe he would still be here. But sometimes we have to realize that it's not on us all the time. These are things that are allowed to happen so that we are able to learn from it and be able to um, experience. Um, because it doesn't mean that I wasn't a healer. It just means that, maybe there was more for me to learn, more for me to understand at that time. And that's why I wasn't in a position to do anything in my sense. So that was a huge blow. Um, I was living, at the time that this happened, I was living in Georgia. And um, once he died, we ended up moving back to Brooklyn. When I got back to Brooklyn, all my friends, what I was seeing was that for the most part, all my friends had a little brother or had an older brother. And it was always for the most part, two, two by two. And either it was the girl that had the older brother, or my friend was the girl that had the younger brother, or, you know, that was pretty much the dynamic that I was dealing with. And from a lot of, I realized that it wasn't always roses with those people, the ones that had the brothers. And of course, at that time, I didn't understand what was going on. I did, and, of course, I knew that I lost my little brother, but still, I'm young, putting two and two together. Um, my best friend ended up being somebody who didn't have any brothers at all. And not only did she not have any brothers, but she was the youngest. And the older siblings that she had older siblings in the same way that I had older siblings. So there was a connection there. And looking back, I'm seeing I can understand why somebody like that would be someone that I would want to be my best friend, especially kind of feeling how I was feeling in terms of the other people, especially the ones with the brothers. But I say all this to say, as I look back and I'm seeing this, I understand what was happening, what was allowed, what I was, what it was teaching me, because I could be very cold. I wasn't very happy in that sense. I lost my brother. I was angry, um, on top of other things that I was dealing with in terms of, um, just body issues and things like that. Um, I wasn't okay. And I think that the emotions and the things that I've kind of experienced as I got older, and the the outlashing, and just how I was. I mean, just in general, um, stem from a lot of that. And now that I'm able to understand where a lot of that came from, I was able to heal it. I was able to say, okay, I see what God was doing for me, making me into who He wanted me to be, and regardless if I understood what was going on at the time, it didn't make it not so. It was just something that I had to come to learn and come to understand. And, although I still to this day miss my brother, but I understand that I don't have to be angry because of it. I understand that he's with me, so much so that years later, when my this is that's another story in itself. But years later, when I end up back in Georgia, I ended up passing by that same urgent care where I took my brother every day going to work. Every day. and was living in the same city that we lived in at the time. You can't tell me that life doesn't have a funny way of coming right back around, and this is the reason why it's important to learn the lessons that you need to learn. Because, how if I hadn't learned, that would have been traumatic for me to have to see that every day if I wasn't healed, if I didn't understand. But thank God I was. And so I tell you this story, and I have multiple others. But I tell you this story because I hope that it helps in some way. I hope there was something that you was able to pull, a message, something, just to let you know it's all right. It's okay. And if there is healing in anything that you seek, you can have it. Just speak it. Just say, I want it. Take the steps to get it, and you'll have it. Well, thank you very much for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day.